Hey everybody, this is Tom with Rocket Restorations, and today we're getting back on the Superbird. So we're going to try something new on the channel this week. We're going to call it Education Thursdays, and we're basically going to do just kind of some short videos with, they won't be kind of our usual long take videos. They're going to probably be a little shorter, but there's going to be some detail stuff, as we're working on restorations in the shop. I'm just going to kind of go over some of this. May be pretty simple, some of the basic stuff, maintenance, stuff like that, but I feel like we should have some of this stuff on our videos. We want to share some of our knowledge with people, so we hope you like this one. And I wanted to share something that we're running into on this, and honestly, I hope someone on here can help us out here, because I just don't know what the solution to this is. So let me show you. We're having some caliper problems. I've spent way more time in this than I care to share, trying to figure out something that will work on this. So this is a 1970 Plymouth Superbird. And the disc brakes on these were brand new for 1970. So the 66 to 69 B-Bodies, you get disc brakes, but they were a 4-piston caliper, and they were a pretty unique setup. Very hard to find parts for. So they simplified things in 70. They went to a single piston caliper, which mounts right here. And they still had a 2-piece rotor. You can see right there, there's a hub and a base. Most of the aftermarket ones you get are 1-piece, because the 2-piece tended to warp a lot more than a single piece. But it kind of is what it is. But it was a big improvement over the 4-piston stuff. The 4-piston stuff worked well, but it was really prone to getting junk stuck in the dust boots, and then they would pull to one side or the other. So let me show you the problem we're having here, and let me kind of give you a little education on calipers on these. Is there anything more annoying than a leaking air hose? The solution is just to go fix them, but that takes time. And Evan chimes in, you just wait till you lose all your hearing, then you just can't hear them. Problem solved. So the Superbird that we're featuring here was taken all apart, and they started the restoration back in the early 80s. If you haven't heard the story of this, I greatly encourage you to go back. In August, we bought this in a estate sale in Spokane, Washington. We had to buy 12 cars to get the Superbird, and it's a cool story. It's a good video too. You guys should go back and watch it if you get a chance. But the front end was done on this. The brakes were done on it. They did the paint, but they just hadn't really put it back together yet, basically. And they'd done all that stuff, but of course everything was sitting for, I don't know, 1984 to now. Geez, 40 years. I'm old. But they were leaking really bad. So, I mean, you turn the rotor and it would literally just, the brake fluid would leak out. You can see how dirty these things are. So there were 2 types of calipers used from the 70 to 72. There's what's called the wide mouth caliper. So this is a wide mouth caliper right here. So this is either one that they had rebuilt back in the day, or they rebuilt the originals, I'm not sure. But they're leaking, they're not usable, they need to be rebuilt. But these are wide mouth calipers. These are extremely hard to find calipers, and they're pretty valuable cores. And they're really hard to find now. So they used the wide mouth in 1970, and there's a little controversy in how long they used it. I don't know if I believe most of 71 should have what's called the small mouth caliper, which is right here. So you can see the difference right here. That's small, that's big right there. Big, small, big, small. And then they have a different casting number on them as well. And that's a Kelsey Hayes number on it. So the small mouth is KH86166. And on the wide mouth ones, it is KH80012. And they're date coded, and if everybody's trying to do a numbers matching restoration, you want to get the right ones on your car. So these are the ones I wanted to use, but when you order them from the parts store, which these are getting extremely difficult to find. I actually just got the last 2 in the O'Reilly system last week. They are NA from O'Reilly's anymore. You can still get them from Rock Auto, a few other places, but the vast majority of times you get these back, they're the small mouth, not the wide mouth, basically. And the wide mouth is the most valuable one, the harder one to find. And so, yeah, so we had a set. I bought a set for the Superbird, kind of when I got it last summer, and had a set of calipers just sitting in it. And, because I figured I'd do the brakes at some point, because I want to be able to drive this thing down the road. And we got these back, but I didn't think too much of it, because theoretically, everything's supposed to interchange on these. Well, let me show you something here. So this is something we discovered, and I have done a ton of these. I've never actually run into this before, and I still don't 100% understand what happened with this. But we're trying to figure that out. And I want to show you guys, the difference and what kind of we ran into here. One lucky thing is, so last week when we had a problem with this, I ordered 2 sets from O'Reilly's. One's right there. We actually got a wide mouth caliper as the rebuilt one, which thank goodness, because it fits perfectly on that side. The other side, we've had to do some modification, but I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so if you look right here, you can see the ears right here. See the difference? So that one right there has a bunch more meat than that one. That one is a much more square design, and this doesn't go into anything. And I'm guessing they probably did that for more strength. I'm guessing with the small mouth versus the big mouth, this was strengthened and it had a little more meat there. But that's where we're running the problem. So I have a little mock-up here, so I'm not trying to do it on the car. It'll be easier to see. So see right here when this is mounted, so this is what's called a pin type caliper. And there's basically two types that Mopar used in the 70s. There's the pin type, which they use early, and basically this is just a pin that goes through the back. It threads into the caliper adapter there, goes through, brake pad here, and goes to the end right there. That's called the pin type. And when the brake pads wear out, the piston goes and it basically goes that way when the brake pads are going away, basically. And that's what the piston does. The other type is called a slider caliper. I'll show you what one of those looks like. So here's what a slider caliper adapter looks like. So it's similar to the pin type, except there's a bolt on top there. So basically what you do is the caliper adapter's there, caliper mounts on top just like that. Trying to do this in one hand here. And then there's a metal plate that bolts on there that pinches between the caliper adapter and the caliper to hold it on. And then it's called the slider because it slides back and forth, and then pins right here where it goes back and forth. So that's the difference between pin and slider caliper. We're working on pins today. Okay, back to the matter at hand. So caliper adapter in here is KH80034. Now the caliper adapters are, I believe there's a different number for the later ones, but I've had it set here. I can't tell what the difference is. They look identical to me. There's a different number there. We tried mounting to that too, and it does the same thing. So let me show you what happens when I try to mount the small mouth on where the wide mouth mounts up fine. Another thing I forgot to mention too. So that's the original dust boot, or not dust boot, pin guide. I don't know what you call that. Rubber boot there. You can see right there, it's a little bit different. So there's these clips on the early ones. These clips go on there, and they basically hold that in, and then I think they put a little tension on the pin too, and they go on both sides. On the newer design, they basically eliminated that, so you don't use those after that. And again, that may have something to do with this too. And you know what? Feel free to roast me in the comments. If I'm completely missing something here, feel free to just yell at me. You missed this. It's the wrong caliper adapter. If you have an answer to this, please let me know. I'm just showing you what we did. I'm trying to be as honest as I can on this channel. We show you the good and the bad. This is an example of a bad and something that was really frustrating. And we hope you learned something about calipers here too. So let me show you what happens when I try to put the newer caliper on. Okay, so new caliper on there. So see right here. So it hits that kind of shelf there, and that's where it has to live. So if you look through right here, see how the thread holes are like way down? Like those have to be in the middle. There's no way around that. If they aren't in the middle, you can't get the pin in, because the pin has this huge shoulder on it. So that kind of centers it as you go in with the rubber. There's no way to mount that caliper. And I've spent way too much time on this the last couple days trying to figure this out. And luckily we got one wide mouth with the earlier design from O'Reilly's yesterday. And the other one, what we had to do is basically cut the ear off. I didn't know how else to do it. So Evan went through, used a cutting wheel, took that part off, and you know what? It's now on the car, and now he's bleeding the brakes. So if anybody has any more ideas on this, I would love to hear it in the comments. Please share. Hopefully I'm just not missing something. But what I don't understand is I've had both caliper adapter brackets. They both do this. I thought like, oh, they must have changed the caliper adapter brackets. As far as I know, I've always been told the 70-72 stuff was completely interchangeable. The early calipers, late calipers. So I'm missing something here. So if somebody knows what that is, please let me know. So, all right, well, Evan's going through. He is now going to bleed the brakes because the fluid that came out of the brakes was horrible because it was put in 40 years ago. So this is definitely one where we're going to bleed the whole system. So what he's going to do is he'll take all the old fluid out of the master cylinder, get all of that out, dump it, and then we'll bleed all the way to the backs, even though we didn't do the rear wheel cylinders. All the rear brakes look fantastic. I mean, I know it's old back there, but everything looked really good on it. So we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to bleed out the old fluid, replace it with new, and we should be good to go. We won't have leaking calipers on a Superbird anymore, and I can drive it, because If there's one thing I know about a wing car, you do not want to drive them with bad brakes, because if you hit something, you hit the nose. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Hope you learned a little bit about calipers and 70 to 72 disc brakes. Hopefully some of you out in the audience can help me out with some answers on this. Appreciate everybody for watching. This is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and we'll talk to you soon. Question for everybody. Is brake fluid supposed to look that bad?